Good evening. Welcome to the home of football. We do love a 2-0 at Anfield, don't we? May the 26th, 1989, or yesterday afternoon for that matter. Either way, it's a good way to kick off a Monday. Welcome to the home of football. Welcome to another fans forum this Monday night, live and exclusive on Arsenal Player. With you for one reason and one reason only, really, and that's to get you on air to the Arsenal-speaking world. In case, I don't know, your memory has disappeared all your numbers or something, let me make sure you know the number to call. 0207 607 3200 gets you through. That's 0207 607 3200. You can email us fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, or you can tweet. We are at Arsenal, and you can message us with the hashtag fansforum. Whatever you want to talk about, as long as it's the Arsenal, will do for me and for tonight's studio guest. Delighted to welcome James Ollie, the excellent James Ollie from The Standard, back to the studio for the first time in a new season. But we really are here to talk to you. 0207 607 3200 is the number. It may well be that you want to talk about yesterday. That could involve the next 90 minutes being more or less patting ourselves on the back non-stop. But you may want to talk about the start to the season generally, what might lie ahead 2 weeks hence when we return to action in the Premier League against Southampton after an international break that sees, as always, our players going off to the four corners. You might want to talk about a very interesting looking Champions League draw, certainly a great couple of away trips, and Montpellier, a return to the south of France for Olivier Giru. Schalke, any trip to Dusseldorf, in fact any trip to Germany, fantastic to watch football. And our old friends Olympiacos, who I think somehow have got connected to us on the little strip of paper. I think Arsenal and Olympiacos now actually connected. As we come out of the pot, we always have Olympiacos attached these days. Make a change to go there and get a result, wouldn't it? Anyway, whatever you want to talk about, as long as it's the Arsenal to do for James and myself, we do, as always, have a competition too. The question tonight, to win this, and I mean physically this very one. It is the last we've got in our prize cupboard, although I'm sure you can buy it from the Arsenal shop and other good suppliers. But we've got that Arsenal 2011-2012 season review DVD to be won. All you need to do is tell us the answer to this question. In 2007, Santi Cazorla was Spanish Player of the Year. What club was he playing for at the time? In 2007, Santi Cazorla was Spanish Player of the Year. Which club was he playing for? If you know the answer, we need that answer with your name and your address to the email address for competition entries, which is fansforum@arsenal.co.uk. 0207 607 0207 607 3200 gets you through to the home of football and to the fans forum, and more to the point, to James Ollie from The Standard. Great to have you with us again, James.
Cheers.
And it is, we do have this fantastic record at Anfield one way or another, but I can't remember a trip in recent times where we were so in control of the game from start to finish.
Yeah, I think the first 20 minutes you expect Liverpool, particularly at home, to get on the front foot and try and get at teams. And I think they did that to a degree, and it was quite even. But really, probably for the 5 or 10 minutes up until the first goal, and then thereafter, they just ran out of ideas, and Arsenal controlled the midfield. Particularly, I thought, as I've written in the paper today, Abdiar was absolutely fantastic. I thought him and Arteta were key to that. They pressed the ball high up the pitch. They kind of did what Liverpool did to Manchester City the week before. They hassled them. They just sort of compressed the space and made it very difficult for them to play and get the ball down and play that passing style that Brendan Rodgers is trying to instigate there. So it was very, very encouraging. And obviously another clean sheet. Now still the only club in England who haven't conceded a goal yet. So.
Yeah, absolutely. 0207 607 3200 gets you through. We can watch the goals from yesterday shortly, but let's talk to Ash in Colindale. Ash, welcome to the home of football.
Yeah, hi Tom.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I just wanted to pay tribute to the fans at Anfield. Not only did the team have a great match on the field, the fans sang their hearts out. And the point I was going to make is that we never seem to replicate that type of singing and chanting at the home games.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. For example, I was at the home game against Sunderland, and I reckon 10 to 20 seconds after the kickoff, we're singing stand up if you hate Tottenham. You never hear that chant on the away games. They just seem to get behind the team, in my opinion, more.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point, and actually you could have said exactly the same thing about the support of the Britannia Stadium the week before. I couldn't get to Anfield just for reasons that need not concern us here, but James, you went, and I don't know, somehow you came in going, oh, that trip to Anfield yesterday, the trains and all that, but in a funny sort of way, that is the difference, isn't it? It's like, for 2, 3, 4, 5,000 of us, depending on allocation, because we sell out everywhere we go, it's a day.
Yeah.
It's the entire day, and, if it's a battle to get there, it just makes you...
Yeah, I mean, this is an issue that a lot of clubs have. It's not just Arsenal.
Every club has it.
Your away support, it's tight-knit. You kind of, you're on enemy territory, aren't you? And when you're on enemy territory, you sort of, you bond with the lad next to you because you don't know who he is, but, you're there for the same reason. And that's why, you make more noise as a result, and you try and back your team because you're outnumbered. You do more to physically support your side. I think I was having a bit of a rant before we came on about the train situation, getting up to the absolute nightmare to get up to Liverpool, and I think that kind of thing does help in a sense of that sense of injustice you already had before the game's even started, because sort of propels you to make more noise. So I think it's a fair point to say that the Emirates could be louder, certainly on sort of matches that Arsenal expected to win, but it's not a problem that is exclusive to Arsenal.
No.
And I think the club are trying to do more with the Arsenalisation of the stadium to try and generate that and get to the root of that problem.
Yeah, but there is, I mean, it's different. Going away is different. People rush to the Emirates from wherever, obviously there are people who travel distances to get to the Emirates, but, every single person who was at Anfield yesterday has spent 2, 3, 4 hours more getting there. You go with a different, you stand for most of the game.
That's right.
It's just, and for all that, I thought the Emirates was fantastic from time to time last year. You think back to the Tottenham game, and I don't mean the Tottenham game once we won 5-2. I mean the Tottenham game when we were 2-0 down. I thought the crowd was absolutely fantastic. And, there were... But the Sunderland game, I think the best you're going to get from an Emirates, for a game like that, the best you're going to get is patience.
But you know what it is? It's expectation as well. When you go to Anfield, it doesn't matter which team you are, you don't know you're going to win. There's always a nagging part who thinks, well, it could get done here today.
Yeah.
You come to Sunderland, you kind of 9 times out of 10 you think you're going to win this game, and you kind of think, right, I'll sit back and I'll watch this.
Yeah.
And then rather than have that kind of nervous energy that will make you make noise, you because you turn up expecting to win the game, you actually start getting a bit agitated and irritated and start shouting in that respect rather than actually getting behind the team.
Ash, thanks very much indeed for the call. Mark is in Hackney. Mark, welcome to the home of football.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh yeah, great. I just wanted to talk about the great result yesterday, because people are trying to downplay it like it's only Liverpool. It's only Liverpool.
Yeah.
Man City went there and drew. They came from behind twice.
Yeah.
So I think they need some credit being given out here, and to believe in Arsene Wenger. Like, he sees these players every day.
Yeah.
We only see them on a Saturday most of the time, or on a Wednesday in the Champions League, or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, Mark, because you're right. I thought we were excellent. As I say, I cannot remember us going to Anfield and just dominating, more or less from start to finish. And certainly even there was, as you say, 10 or 15 minutes at the start of the first half. There's another 5 or 10 minutes in the second half where you can see Liverpool kind of having a go, but we're just in control of the game. I guess maybe people are downplaying it because Liverpool, certainly yesterday, were a shadow of the team that played Manchester City. And just we're a shadow of Liverpool teams past, really. And maybe people you're trying to work out that balance. How good were we? How poor were Liverpool?
What you can say is, I mean, Santi Cazorla was fantastic yesterday. Podolski, the interplay between those two, but they did have a lot of space to play, and that. You can say on the one hand, well, that was down to Arsenal's movement. Of course, it was down to a degree with fullbacks pushing on, and as we said already, them pressing them high up the pitch, so that you were already there to start with. You already got men further forward when you do win the ball. But also, it was down to Liverpool. They weren't on it. They weren't at the races. And second half, they just kind of ran out of ideas. And you saw Steven Gerrard and Stephen Downing when he came on, Stuart Downing rather, when he came on, trying to get the ball into wide areas, and then they were looking to whip it in, but then they sort of thought, well, A, the manager doesn't want us to do this, and B, we haven't got anyone in there anyway who's going to take advantage of it. And it's almost sort of blasphemy around Merseyside, but they did really miss Andy Carroll. You know, they missed a plan B. But you know, Arsenal, were, to their credit, were absolutely rock solid, and a lot of credit has to go to Steve Bold and to Neil Banfield as well. You know, you've got to remember there's two changes to that backroom staff. Steve Bold will attract all the attention because he's the name, he's the ex-player. But those two have come in and they've obviously worked on a system where they press higher up the pitch and they try and win the ball higher up so that you don't have as much pressure on your central defenders, your fullbacks and whoever's sitting in midfield to have to win the ball there, because if they don't, they're in behind you.
You have to do that over the course of 38 games, right? I mean, I can remember starts to the season where we've done that for 3 or 4 games. Particularly the season, what was it, 2-3 seasons ago, when we started the season winning 6-1 at Everton, and it was like, you know, pressing from the...
Yeah, but go back 12 months, and, you know, we were sitting here at the close of the transfer window this time last year, and it was chaos, you know. Half these players we hadn't even heard of had come in.
I think you'll find we weren't actually sitting, we were lying down in the darkened room. But thanks very much for the call, Mark. David is in Birmingham. David, welcome to the home of football.
Good evening, guys. How are you doing?
Evening, yeah, good.
I want to start with the positives.
Yeah.
I think we're absolutely fantastic at the weekend. Absolutely brilliant. I think we played well. We kept the ball when we needed to, and we come forward counter-attacking. That's the best counter-attacking player I've seen in about 4 or 5 years. I think we kept the ball good, and we sort of moved it forward when we needed to. But Liverpool had more possession than us overall the game, but we made it count when we had the ball, and I think we haven't done that in a while. I think we've been messing around the ball in areas, and not really going forward with it, but we've been really progressive the way we played yesterday. And some of the I don't know where that came from yesterday. I just don't know where it came from.
Yeah. Do you know, David, it's an absolutely terrible line. We might try and get you back, but we're actually struggling to pick you out there. But that point we did get, and that's so important, that, you know, where you look and, you know, possession is possession. Progressive possession, and Diaby kind of symbolised it. Every time he got the ball,
well, it was
forward.
It was probably the difference between the two sides yesterday, because Liverpool, you know, the first 20 minutes of both sides were giving the ball away quite a bit.
Carl Jenkinson was giving the ball away. Well, that's fun, by the way.
Well, he looked like he was on course to have an absolute nightmare, and then he really got himself together. There was one tackle midway through the first half on Sterling. That was a turning point. Sterling was running at him, you know, bobbing and weaving, and then literally cleaned the ball, took it out, and from that moment on, he really thought, right, I can get into this game now. But, you know, you saw Liverpool with possession kind of 40, 50 yards from goal, and they were trying to, you know, work these patterns. And they're clearly, you know, they've obviously, you know, got a new manager, and he's trying to impart his methods, and they've not quite got used to it yet. And, you know, basically the second half was just Suarez falling over more than a 3-legged horse, wasn't it? I mean, that was all they had. That was really all they had by the end. And okay, the Mertesacker challenge, I've seen those given. You could argue maybe that was a penalty, but if that was really all they can create at home, you know, you've gone to Anfield and done a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. It's funny, you know. Everybody's said, you know, obviously people have been going, oh, you know, how Liverpool missed Andy. I'll tell you what they missed. They missed Olivier Giroud. Because for all that he hasn't scored yet, and for all that, you know, Howard Webb, for whatever reason, decided to allow, what should we say, allowed Agger and Skirtle a certain leeway when they were challenging for the ball in the air with Giroud. What Giroud does is he gives you a, do you know what I mean?
A focal point, yeah.
He gives you a focal point, and also he gives you, you know, in those situations where Carl Jenkinson is thinking, where do I go, and he ends up playing it straight across his back four, which is just kind of recipe for disaster. You don't have to do that. If push comes to shove, Olivier Giroud, you can send him a fight ball, and as Huth and the other fella found out at Stoke, he'll fight you. He'll fight you. I mean, the Stoke defence were looking at him going, you're an Arsenal centre forward.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, he's a kind of player. I mean, I know they've had Shamak, and I know they've got Bentner, I know he's gone out on loan, and obviously not there now, but they had that kind of player before. But, you know, Podolski and Cazorla are the kinds of players who will slot straight in the sense of they get the 1-2 touch, the intricate kind of play. They get that. That's what they're about, you know. Managed to speak to Lucas yesterday, and he was talking about that style as one of the reasons why he came to the club. You know, that kind of quick interplay. But with Giroud, you know, the back four probably aren't used to thinking, well, actually, if we just need an out ball, we could knock it long, as opposed to hacking it into touch or trying a 50-50 ball in which we might give it away. So they'll take time maybe to get used to the fact that he's there, and those are his strengths.
Kwame is in Germany, in Paderborn to be precise. Kwame, welcome to the home of football.
Good evening, gents.
Good evening.
Tom?
Yeah, hiya.
I think you hit it right on the head with Diaby performance yesterday.
Oh.
I think he's very good when the ball comes to him and he gets rid of it straight away. Yesterday, he made progress when he needed to make progress. He passed the ball one-touch pass when he needed to do it. And I thought it was fantastic yesterday. I'll speak about Podolski as well. Apart from him scoring the goal, I thought he was fantastic on defense. You know, he muscled his way through. I thought, he's been playing like he played in the Premiership before.
Yeah.
And I know it's early days for the team. And yesterday's performance, I mean, from away was was brilliant. And and let's hope there's more to come from them. It's only confidence building, and I hope that will be a massive confidence for them.
Yeah.
And with Giroud, although he didn't score, he's going to come. He just showed the patience, and you can see glimpses of it. And hopefully, he will score, and then the confidence will come up. There's no pressure on him now. He should be all right. And
Well, I mean, the confidence will have to come because the poor fella can't get an earful like he got off Kieran Gibbs every week.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. No, it's great. It's great. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a shame that you can't get the Evening Standard in Germany, because I've written this big old piece today about Diaby and managed to speak to him as well yesterday. And it was a performance that kind of, you were pleased for him for everything that he's been through, injury-wise, really going back to 2006. It's one of his best performances I've ever seen from him, really. I don't want to get too carried away because it's early in the season, but, if he can replicate that kind of performance, he could be a really, really key player for us.
No, you will not find me an Arsenal supporter who can remember, since Dan Smith broke his ankle, you will not find, you cannot tell me he's played better than that.
You just have to hope, that he can stay fit, because the gamble that Arsene Wenger did take in the transfer window was to not bring in a kind of traditional stopper. People talk about a replacement with Alex Song, but he was kind of, even he was drifting further forward, wasn't he? It was almost Arteta who became the holding man, if you like. And clearly, and every time we've spoken to Arsene Wenger, week after week, when player after player was mentioned, and you'd sort of talk about Wilshere coming back from injury or Sanya with his broken leg, and every time he'd mention, Diaby's back soon, Diaby's back soon. And I'll be honest, there was a bit of sort of indifference around the room. You kind of think, well, yeah, okay, good luck with that, Arsene. But, it's performances like that yesterday that completely vindicate his faith. And the key thing for him now is he needs to stay fit. If he can play 30-odd games or more in the Premier League, then he could be the difference this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Difference between what and what. We'll get on to that. 0207 607 3200 gets you through to the home of football this and every Monday night. James Ollie from The Standard is our guest. You can email us to fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, or you can tweet We Are At Arsenal, and messages need the hashtag fansforum. Email from Presmek, who says, 1. How do you see our objectives this year? Is the 4th place really maximum that we can achieve, according to pundits? I hope for more after yesterday's performance. 2. Don't you think that lack of further reinforcements in the end of the transfer window might slightly disappoint some of the players, e.g. Cazorla, who was hoping for new faces to come after Song's departure? 3. Is Arshavin still a part of Arsene Wenger's plans? Well, I just asked you the difference between what and what. So what's the difference? The difference between what and what? Where do you think Arsenal Football Club can pitch expectations this season?
I think realistically, I know it's not a particularly original viewpoint, but I think the Manchester clubs are just a cut above, and it pains me as a London-based journalist to say that. Let me just get that clear. But the Manchester clubs, City and United, I think are just too strong. I think when you look at not only their first 11 but what they've got in reserve, I think they can cope with almost any eventuality. I mean, United at the minute pretty much have to because they've hardly got any defenders. But if they get those fit, City have had to rest David Silva. He played at the weekend, but he's now being slowly reintegrated after the Euros, and those are the two that have got the squads to cope with those kind of things. I think third place then is up for grabs. Third place is anyone's, and we sit here every year, and we know that for this club, Champions League football is the minimum aim. The top four is what they budget for. It's what Arsene Wenger prides himself upon, that they do finish in that top four. And obviously, third place brings with it an automatic qualifying place. So it's third does mean something as opposed to just fourth. But I think to challenge for the title, I haven't seen enough yet. As encouraging as yesterday was, I haven't seen enough yet to suggest that they could sustain it over a 38-game period to finish above those two. But third place, to me, is very much within Arsenal's reach.
Tell you what, third or fourth in a trophy that wasn't Chris Paul would absolutely, it might not a bad season. And just very quickly, just before we talk to Jonathan, what about the Andre Arshavin? We seem to get everybody off the premises that needed to be got off the premises, temporarily at least. Andre Arshavin, though, is still here.
Well, the situation there was he was told they had a meeting at the end of the season, and Wenger told him that he was no longer required. If he wanted to go back to Russia, or if they wanted to sell him, they were quite happy to do a deal. He's, I think, in the final year of his contract now, so they were quite happy to let him go. He'd obviously spent 6 months on loan at Zenit. But the thing about Andre is that although I know he's got a bit of a mixed reputation with the fans, sometimes he doesn't put it in, he's attracted criticism individually in the past, he does genuinely love this club, and he is actually quite happy
he's genuinely got ability.
Yeah, hey, he's not a left winger. That's always been my issue with him. He's been played in the wrong position. You play him where you play Cazorla consistently, and you'll see a different football, in my opinion. But anyway, that's another debate. But his kids are settled here. His wife's pregnant with their third child. He wants to bring up his family in England, and particularly in London. So his agents were sort of trying to look for a move. They were maybe talking about Fulham. As I say, Zenit were also interested, but he didn't want to go back to Russia. So it just sort of petered out into a bit of a stalemate, really. And Wenger's, not the type of player to say, right, that's it, get out, your time's done. He kind of said, look, you're not going to be part of the first team here. If you want to stay, I'm more than happy to have you here. But this is a state of play, and they've decided to leave it where it is. Whether in January they'll move it, I don't know. But for now, that's where they are.
Jonathan is in Ilford. Jonathan, welcome to the home of football.
Hi there, guys. How are you all?
Yeah, good.
Very good.
Yeah, lovely. Actually, the topic that we've sort of been mentioning, it kind of leads nicely onto my points. And there's 2 points I wanted to say. And now the transfer window's closed, we now know what our squad is. And we've got players like Arshavin, Skilaci, Shamak that are in the club and are still there. And I think as far as how we can go this season, I think it's dependent on players like that. Last season, we had Carl Jenkinson starting at Old Trafford, and if you look at his performance yesterday, we didn't miss Stagner a bit. And you look at Podolski, that's very much the type of shift that Arshavin should be putting in. And how far we'll go will be on how good our squad was. The fact that both our wingers came off was because of how hard they worked, and that's something that throughout the team, Mertesacker came in, you would argue Koscielny's our first choice centre-back alongside Marlin. He came in and he didn't look out of place. And I think that will determine how far we'll go this season. We know Arsenal's first 11 will be the best. I think it's what happens when Ramsey comes on, when Arshavin comes on. And I think that will be what will tell how far we'll go this season.
Yeah.
And I think we can do that. And I think now the window's shut, the point that I was trying to make is we need to get behind these players. Everyone's praising Diaby right now, but a year ago, they were slating him. And then we get surprised when these players want to leave our club. I really do think that as fans, we need to have a bit more respect for some of our players. Ramsey's been, slated a lot. People forget he chose us over Man United, and that says a lot. And I think sometimes we need to stop being so negative with players, because when they turn around and they give us the thing, we act a bit surprised. But I think it's a bit of a two-way street. And with Walcott as well, I hope when he plays he gets the reception he deserves, because, again, he'll have a part to play in our season. And I just wanted to make that message, now that everyone's sort of a bit positive, we need to just get behind the team. Manone, again, he needs a mention. Manone, Jenkinson and Mertesacker were the three performances I was most pleased to see because they deserve that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I wanted to say.
And
Just cut that and play that before each home game. That's what they should do.
No, very good. And Jonathan, it's really interesting. You started that with Podolski and talked about, because I think yesterday at Anfield, Podolski put down a marker for everybody else in the team. That, you know, you think we've had a lot of talented wide players. We've got talented wide players on the premises. Podolski has played 100 times for his country, scored a goal every other game for his country, and he thinks his job is to look after Kieran Gibbs. And I just think I thought his work rate yesterday, got his goal, fantastic, but his work rate throughout was just, you know, you absolutely have to have that kind of commitment all over the pitch. And I just think he was fantastic from that point of view yesterday.
When I spoke to him yesterday, he was, you know, we were talking to him about what this result might mean in terms of, you know, sending out a message to the fans and also to the rest of the league to say, look, you know, maybe people haven't considered Arsenal as title contenders or, you know, steering role, they're going to finish outside the top four, whatever. This is a real statement to come to Anfield, win 2-0 and do it in a bit of style and with authority. And he kind of almost laughed at the suggestion because he was very much adamant that, well, we've played 3 games, you know, there's 35 more to go. What I would say is this is a great result, but really, if you're not going to repeat this every week, there's no point. And he's got that mentality. He's only 26, you know, he's getting into the prime of his career now. You say he's got that wealth of experience behind him, but he's got that. I don't want to use the word arrogance because it's a stereotypical German, efficient, arrogant thing.
Yeah, but it's not the kind of arrogance that sees him with a cigar on once he's scored his goal.
It's an arrogance that says, if you do your work, you're talented enough to win anywhere. And that is possibly an ethic that Arsenal haven't always had in the past. They've thought, well, we've got the talent, so we will win.
We probably don't have to work so hard.
But he's got both, and he just exuded this kind of meanness in the highest. I'm trying to praise him. It's not coming across. You know, I mean this in the best way possible. He's got this confidence about him that says, look, you know, we know how good we are, but you've got to show it every week. And if you don't show it every week in this league, you'll lose.
Yeah. Alison is in Enfield. Alison, welcome to the home of football.
Hi.
How are you?
I am doing okay.
Good.
I just want to say that I listen to your show every Monday.
Well,
this is the first time that I am calling in.
Make sure it's not the last, Alison. Good to hear from you.
Okay. What I want to talk about is Oliver Giroud.
Yeah.
I know that Arsenal has only played about three games already, and he seems to be struggling a bit.
Well, he's only started 2 of those games.
That he will come good.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, he didn't start the first game of the season against Sunderland. Podolski started down the middle, and you know, I think you're right, Alison. You look at his overall performance. You look at what he brings to the team. It's his first 2 games in an Arsenal shirt, and I think the guy will come good. I really like what I see.
What he needs games. And when you look at the composition of the squad, you could say, you know, in an ideal world, personally, I think they may need one more striker. I think, you know, if you lose Giroud to injury, can Shamak come in and get you the goals you need? That's a big question mark for me. I'd like more competition up front, particularly when you think Park's obviously gone out, Bentner's gone out.
Yeah,
you'd like to see one maybe come in. So what that says to Giroud from Wenger really is, I believe in you, you're going to get games, don't worry about it if you're missing chances, you are integral to this team, relax, acclimatise to the league, and if he does that, the goals will come. His movement's very good. His movement's very good, and that's half the battle really.
No, absolutely. Alison, thank you very much indeed for the call. Please make sure it's not the last time we hear from you, won't you? 0207 607 3200 is the number you need to get through to the home of football, to myself and James Ollie from the Standard. You can email us anytime you like, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, or you can tweet. We are at Arsenal, and your message needs the hashtag fansforum. Just a reminder, we do, as always, have a little bit of added value by way of a competition. Arsenal season review 2011-2012. And it was some season, one way or another. Did it not feel like we'd won the league at the Hawthorns last game? Absolutely ridiculous. Finishing third, and it felt like winning the league. But that gave you a clue as to where we started. If you do want to be in with the chance of winning that, all you need to do is tell me the answer to this question. In 2007, Santi Cazorla was the Spanish Player of the Year. Which club was he playing for at the time? Santi Cazorla, 2007 Spanish Player of the Year. Which club was he playing for at the time? If you know the answer, let's have your name, please, and your address, as well as the answer, to our dedicated email address, which is fansforumcompetition, all one word, fansforumcompetition@arsenal.co.uk. Good luck with that, and I will try and find time to get you a reminder before close of play. Right now, though, let's take some of your tweets. We are at Arsenal, and your message needs to be hashtag fansforum. London Rab says, Arteta has been a revelation as sitting midfielder and providing the discipline we desperately needed there. At Sevi Be Good says, is Bold the most important signing of our summer? Can't remember our defence being this strong since Graham's back four. At Moose Arteta is really enhancing his reputation as a defensive midfielder. At Kieran64, these clean sheets are a massive achievement. We conceded 10 goals at this stage last season. So plenty on the defending, and do join that. We are at Arsenal, hashtag is fansforum, and you know, you said we're the only team in England with 3 clean sheets. I think I'm right in saying it's something like 85, 86 years since we started a season with 3 clean sheets. You know, all right, 2 of those sides had absolutely no interest in scoring goals against us whatsoever. You know, Stoke and Sunderland were, you know, just...
Yeah, but Stoke habitually cause Arsenal problems.
Yeah, never did.
And they didn't really, you know, yes, you're right. I mean, they played for a draw from about I was going to say the hour mark, but I think it was earlier than that, you know. And Steve Bold's work in trying to drill that back forward, but not just the back four, actually, the whole side, from trying to press, as say, higher up the pitch, and trying to win the ball back higher up to take the pressure off those defenders. You know, you can see that. We were talking about Podolski earlier. He's embodied that. He's bought into that, you know. Yeah. And they're trying to win the ball back in different areas to how they did it before, and it's making them tighter as a unit. And the other point on the tweets there about Arteta is absolutely right. I mean, we're eulogising about Diaby, but Arteta's the one who's kind of made the discipline and defensive sacrifice that maybe Diaby's not quite capable of, because he's completely remodelled his game. You know, he's the one that sits in.
Do you think Alex Song was capable of making that sacrifice?
I think that was one of the reasons why he was sold. I think there became an issue attitude-wise with him that, you know, Arsene Wenger wanted him to sit in more, wanted him to be that one who would hold. I think if everybody was fit, you know, and he was still here, you'd probably have Song and then Wilshere being the one who's playing that role of going forward. But Song would kind of had the licence to go and get forward, or he took it upon himself to do that during matches. And you know, he provided fantastic assists last season. You know, he's a great player on the ball. You know, and every time he kind of did it, you almost thought he was almost turning around to the dugout and saying, "See, I'm not just a holding midfielder."
Yeah.
But I do think that was an element there. But Arteta's got that self-sacrifice, you know, and he's performing that role fantastically at the moment. My only concern is this is all well and good when Arsenal dominate possession. If when they go away from home and they're not having the ball consistently, they're not able to get out, is that central midfield going to be strong enough to break up play and do the kind of graft, the more disciplinary stuff that you know you'd associate with a Song or a Makalele going back a few years? You know, but we're only going to find out in time. It's good so far.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it is good so far. And yesterday afternoon was fun. Let's remind ourselves what happened at Anfield.
Gerrard looking to release Suarez, maybe a bit too early. And Arsenal find some space. Cazorla, he'll have a go, you know. He will have a go. There's a chance here, a real chance for Podolski! And he has buried it! The German international has got Arsenal up and running, and it's at Anfield. They lead Liverpool with just half an hour gone by 1-0. What a cracker! It was a great, to be fair, Gerrard's given it away down the other end. He's given Arsenal the chance to break, you know, 3 passes. You know, Cazorla's broken the box. Podolski's made the thing. 1 chance. I mean, he's been quiet all afternoon chasing Glenn Johnson, but it shows the class. You know, he's had 1 chance here. Great touch. And Liverpool was stretched. And Podolski puts it away. We've just got to keep our concentration. You know, absorb a little bit of pressure. Derby's got. He can break. It's 3 against 2. He's done well here. It's opening up. It's opening up. Oh, just wide from Giru. Oh. And Gibbs cannot believe it. The Arsenal fans cannot believe it. I think Gibbs was coming in as well on his left foot, nice and straight. I'd love to see us try and really commit to counter-attacks and look for that second goal. And Cazorla's in here really well. Maybe here now. Oh yes! Great goal. Cazorla is on the score sheet. First Podolski, then Cazorla. And these are happy days. Liverpool do not know which way to turn. Arsenal lead here by 2-0. Great little play. Cazorla, you can see recently, just in the last few minutes, he's been trying to get his shots on goal and get in. There's a great little 1-2 here. Little reverse pass to Podolski, plays him back in. He hasn't really got many options. Just low and hard.
Like I say, plenty to enjoy. Certainly those 2 goals. First goals for the club, for Lucas Podolski and Santi Cazorla. Just put this in a bit of perspective for us, James. Just Arsenal were strong, but you look at, you know, last season we went to Anfield with Robin van Persie, with Alex Song, who between them came up with a memorable winning goal. But that game, we were kind of dominated for long spells in that game. And to be honest, you know, you remember the post-match interviews, it was all a little bit kind of shamefaced, really. We nicked it. We nicked it, which is great, don't get me wrong. But the difference, and you think, well, have Arsenal moved on, or have Liverpool slipped back alarmingly
I think
for them?
Liverpool, it's hard to argue from their transfer dealings that they've gone forward, certainly as a club. I mean, Joe Allen looks a decent player. You know, but in attack, Fabio Borini looks a little bit like a younger Dirk Kuyt. You know, he will work. He bottled a couple of challenges actually. Particularly, I remember one on Diaby in the first half. He completely pulled out of it. He thought, you know, blimey, how big's this lad? You know. So you can see that they're trying to work a system that will make them sort of devastating in the final third and incisive in the final third. So there's an element of that. I just think Arsenal just worked harder. They really got at Liverpool, and we're talking about Liverpool, you know, 7 days earlier when they played Manchester City, and they worked harder than City, and City were extremely lucky to get away from Anfield with a draw, with a 2-2 draw, and it was just a case that Arsenal allied that talent and that greater fluidity with a superior work rate.
Yeah.
And that's really the difference. And if they can sustain that is the big if. Because like you say, we've sat here and we've said, well, last season, well, maybe they haven't even got the talent. You know, years gone by, well, they've got the talent, they've got the work rate, and then by Christmas something goes wrong. You know, it remains to be seen. But the signs are very encouraging if they can put the 2 together.
0207 607 3200 is the number you need. We'll get you on air to the Arsenal speaking world here on the Arsenal Fans Forum. On Arsenal Player, you can email us to fansforum@arsenal.co.uk or tweet. We are at Arsenal. The hashtag is fansforum. It's just we're trying our best to get as many callers to air as possible on a Monday night. Just going to let a couple of supporters have their say, as it were. We'll keep stum for a change, and just you guys have your say, and we'll pick up off the back of, say, the next 3 calls. First off, James is in St Albans. James, fire away. Welcome to the home of football.
Hi there, Tom. Hi there, Ollie.
Hi.
Sorry, James. I was just saying my point. Earlier you talked about Giru, and my point was that the thing that has impressed me the most about him has been his movement, and that some fans that I've seen on like Twitter, for example, they're a bit worried about him. However, I'm certain that he's going to get the goals because his movement is so exceptional. It's just a bit like when Van Persie, you have the feeling that at least one time in the game he's going to have that opportunity, and that's what I'm sure that once Giroud gets his first one, many more are going to come. And that's what, yeah.
No, brilliant. Thank you. Elliot is in Toronto. Elliot, welcome to the home of football.
Yes, thank you very much, gentlemen. Just to start off with, basically, getting back to your point about what happened between February of last year and what happened yesterday. Quite simply, Liverpool had the same amount of possession, but this time Arsenal were a more assured, a more capable side, and you can see that they kept everything in front of them, and they had every answer for Liverpool's forays into our end. And I think that goes down to the coach, and that goes down to the players themselves. But I just wanted to make special mention about Abu Dhabi. He was absolutely immense yesterday, and I just wanted to have a little point. In terms of heroes, Gerrard always said that Vieira was his hero in terms of a midfielder. He just saw the next coming in terms of Abu Dhabi because he never laid a finger on Diaby yesterday because he was that big, he was that powerful, he was that strong, and he gave a beautiful performance, and I hope it long may it continue. I knock on wood now. So that's it, guys.
Elliot, thanks for that. Adam is in Reading. Adam, welcome to the home of football.
Hello?
Yeah, fire away, Adam.
Hi, I watched the Liverpool game. I was very pleased with how the guys played. Hi. I was just thinking about midfield mainly. Some people have been saying about how we should have some transfers there, like Shahin was an idea, Dempsey as well. I was just thinking, obviously the midfield seems so strong in the past game. And we had a big amount of, 5 midfielders. I just don't. Yeah.
No, go on.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, we've got obviously Rosicky and Wilshere injured. I was just wondering whether they're going to come in when they get back, because obviously you've got Arteta and everyone, you can replace him.
Adam, it's one of my favourites. Thanks very much indeed for the call. Thanks to everybody for that. We'll just start with Adam first. I love that, the whole kind of, when Wilshere comes back, what will we do? This is Arsenal. We've never got a fit squad. You never, and what club does always have, for any length of time, have their, are they able to have the luxury of picking a first 11 from a fully fit 16? It doesn't happen, does it?
What you hope is, at the very least, is that given the amount of options that there are in that central midfield position, removing Arteta from the situation, because I genuinely think he's now probably the only one who can play that bona fide defensive discipline role, is you just hope that when Wilshere comes back, there's now not the pressure on him to come back and be the saviour of the midfield. And you come back and you look at somebody like Vidic from Man United, who's come back off a season injury, and he's got to go straight in and anchor a back 4 because they haven't got anyone else. He's got to play every week. That's detrimental to a player's long-term fitness, and particularly somebody like Jack Wilshere, who's very, very young, start of his career. You could argue that when you speak to people sort of in and around him, you feel maybe he played too many games too young, and he was given too great a workload when his body was basically still growing. And he wasn't allowed the time to develop, away from matches and away from sort of the first team game every 3 days kind of cycle. So you hope that somebody like Wilshere can actually be given the time a 20, 21-year-old should be given, which is to come back in, play the odd game, and really work his fitness and get back up to full speed. But, the injury situation at Arsenal has been bad for a number of years. It always seems to come in one position. You know, I remember last year with no full-backs for a certain period of time.
Four out.
It's remarkable how it seems to come and go. So, you know, it would be naive to sit here and think, you know, when Wilshere and Sanya are back and Rosicky are back, that'll be it, everybody's fit. But, you know, what you do think is that they have got options now to just ease those players back in a bit more. If Jenkinson can continue to deliver on his performances, you know, Sanya, for me, is probably the best right back in the league. You know, he doesn't have to come straight back in and play 90 minutes. They could bring him on and ease him back in, and that will help the overall injury picture. Because there have been times in the past when they've rushed players back and they've got injured again.
Yeah, absolutely. Abu Diaby arguably being one of those. Yeah. But thanks for those. Olivier Giroud, Abu Diaby, I don't think you're getting any argument from this end on those. Email from Carl. You can email us anytime, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk. Carl says, "Hi Tom, wonder what you think of the prospect of getting Drogba or Anelka in soon as they have been released by their club. Obviously wages is a stumbling block, but it seems they will have to take a pay cut no matter where they go. Anelka would be more likely to rejoin us of the two, I think. Interested to hear your thoughts on it." You know, Nicolas Anelka, I've got to say to you, Carl, Nicolas Anelka for me, you know, we all have kind of what might have beens. And probably the number one what might have been, you know, we've lost players, whether it's Van Persie or, how weird was that yesterday watching him do that, by the way. But, you know, Van Persie, Fabregas, whoever. What might have been is Nicolas Anelka. Is just, what if?
The club and certainly the team, I think, and the style of play have probably moved on from him now. I mean, where would he play? On the right of a three? Would you play him through the middle?
I think you'd have to have him on the premises to replace Giroud. I don't think he works as a target man in the same way, but you'd have the little balls in behind, and he's a great finisher. I just feel like if he developed while he was at Arsenal, and once he left us, what he did was repeat the trick, do what he'd learned at Arsenal at a succession of big clubs in return for lots of money. If he'd stayed at Arsenal, he would have kept developing. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind Nicolas Anelka would have been the biggest player in world football. He would have been the striker, bar none, in world football.
In terms of responding directly to that email, in terms of which of the two, I think now I'd take Drogba. Because I think he could perform.
He only wants to play one game in four anyway, doesn't he? So
he could perform that centre-forward role. And I mean, how many times have we sat in the last few years and watched Chelsea-Arsenal games and thought, you take Drogba out of that team and you put him in the other way around. Okay, before Van Persie's fantastic season, you put him in the other team. That's a hell of a side you've got there, you know. And I think he can still. How old is he now? 34. I think he can still do a job very much so in the Premier League. And as a plan B. You know, if you say to Giroud, right, you are our main man, but I'm bringing in this guy off the bench. If, you know, you're 0-0 here at Sunderland, I wouldn't mind bringing Drogba on 20 minutes ago.
You have Drogba on the premises and suddenly Olivier Giroud turns into Fernando Torres. And, you know...
possibly. There'll be an element of that. But if you do it in the right way, and you know, Giroud would be the one that starts the matches. You know, you make that clear. I mean... There's a million obstacles between Drogba joining, where he is now, Drogba joining Arsenal.
This is like fantasy football, and neither of these are within a million miles of joining this football club.
No, but if Drogba was to come in and you were to clearly establish, you know, at the point of entry, you're coming through these doors, you're not our first choice striker. What you are is a plan B. You'll certainly play if he gets injured, Giroud gets injured. But this is the guy we brought in. We spent the money on him. He's the future for us. We're trying to get this front four to play as they do, because all are in behind. This is what we want to play. You can slot into that. You know the Premier League. You can do a job. Absolutely no problem. In the same sort of way that United signed Michael Owen, that kind of proven Premier League, you won't play every week, but when you do, you may well get us a goal.
Personally, I'm with Adam in Reading. I'd have rather Clint Dempsey, but there we are. Edward is in Bedford. Edward in Bedford, you're very welcome to the home of football.
Yeah, hi there. I've watched the show every week. I was just want to say about players like Shamak, Squillaci and Arshavin. Do you think that Arsene tried to move the players on enough? And if he did, then why are they still in the club? As they are still in the club, it kind of limits who we can buy, or the amount that we can buy. And also, the Times said that we lodged 2 bids for Kabai, and that didn't happen. So, because as I think with Park going out a bit too late, but I think Wenger did try and move the players on, but the clubs just weren't there to buy them. So, yeah, that kind of hurts our situation a little bit.
I mean, the first, we've kind of dealt with Arshavin already. Just to briefly recap the situation with him, was he was told at the end of last season that he could go. Essentially, they tried to find him a club, but he didn't. There wasn't a club that he particularly wanted to join. He's happy at Arsenal. He's happy in London. He's happy also not playing every week, and he's probably happy picking up his wages, I would imagine, as well. But his family is settled here. I think he does genuinely have an affection for the club, and he will see out the final year of his deal simply because they couldn't find a buyer for him. Shamak, I think you mentioned there. Now he's on something in the region of £60,000 a week, which is an awful lot of money for that kind of player, in my opinion. There were talks with a number of clubs over a loan move. I think Besiktas were one of them that were probably most interested. But again, it came down to a case of, does he want to play there? Who's going to pick up his salary at the end of the day? And I think Schillaci was a similar sort of issue there as well. So, you know, you've got these players on that kind of salary. It's going to be hard to find clubs, especially, I know there's a lot of money spent right at the end of the window, but there are clubs who are looking with one eye on financial fair play, however sceptical we are about the impacts that it will have, who are thinking, well, can we afford to pay the wages for these kind of players? And it's not an issue just that Arsenal has. A number of clubs have it. And to Manchester City, look at the troubles they have in trying to get rid of players on double the wages that they're on here. But you know, this is a problem that Arsenal do have. They did move a few on. Shamak wasn't at training when Park wasn't at training, and Bentner wasn't there either, and that was, I think, deadline day. They were trying to move, no, sorry, it was the day before deadline day. They were trying to move players on. Obviously, those two did go. Bentner went to Italy and Park to Celta Vigo. Shamak was in talks. They just couldn't get him out the door. And I think also they probably thought, well, you know, if you let Shamak go as well as Park and as well as Bentner, and Giru does suffer an injury, who have you got? Really? You're asking Podolski to play through the middle. Podolski, he's better on the left. Yeah, absolutely. Much better. Absolutely. Ben's in Brixton. Ben, welcome to the home of football.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad. You?
Good, thank you. I just wanted a point. Well, you sort of mentioned it a bit earlier about when Gibbs absolutely laid into Giroud in front of the clock when he missed that sitter.
Yeah.
For me personally, I thought that was really, really, really cool of Gibbs. I really liked him doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you think that should happen? Do you think you should berate your own teammates, or do you think do you think that's an acceptable thing to do? Because I personally thought it was the right thing to do, but and I'd just like to get other people's opinions on it.
Yeah, it's a good one. We have already mentioned it.
I agree with Ben completely. I think it's a good thing to do. I think it shows good leadership. I think when you look at it in isolation, if you just see a clip of that moment, you think, oh, he's missed a bit of a sitter there, and he's kind of getting a dressing down from a relative rookie in the team. You might think, well, he's getting above his station, Kieran Gibbs, but if you put it in the context of the match, it's about intensity, it's about maintaining your focus,
it's about desire,
maintaining your desire and your discipline, and that's really what he's saying. He's not saying, he's not clipping on the back and saying you're rubbish, go back to France. He's saying, look, come on, buck your ideas up, you're better than that. We're trying to win this game.
Is that what he said? I couldn't.
Something along those lines, I've cut the expletive out.
Maybe not that particular choice.
But it's that kind of togetherness and that kind of leadership, really, I suppose, that he's showing that maybe Arsenal have lacked in the past. And I've been to away games when they've been losing, it's been very quiet in the team. I mean, there's not a lot of talking. There's nobody really trying to get hold of them. And I think the more shouting, the better, really. And I personally, I like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. But Ben, I'm with James on this. I just think you see that kind of thing, and it's a defender saying, look, I will chuck my body in front of a goal-bound shot, absolutely no problem for this football club. You absolutely need to do what your job is at the other end of the pitch. And if, I actually see that, and what I see is respect. That there's, in order to do that amongst teammates, you talk to any of the players who played in the double side, for example, in 70-71, toting each other off all the time. On the pitch, off the pitch, that invincible side, I guarantee you.
It drives everyone to be better.
Exactly, you want it. You want it so bad that when someone else doesn't do it, you give them stick, and when you don't do it, they give you stick, and that's absolutely part of what drives you on. And there's a fundamental mutual respect, I think, that allows you to do that. There's no kind of, I can't say anything to him.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Which I think there's been a bit of that around the club in recent years, one way or another.
Yeah, Thierry Henry is probably one of them.
Or there's been one or two since, don't worry about that.
But just the first name that popped into my mind, but you kind of thought, you could see people getting into positions where they could play a better ball, but they're trying to find Henry because they think, I really should
better
get
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much indeed for the call, Ben. A few of your messages via Facebook. I'm sure you know all about how to get your messages to us. Marcus Andreas says, Vermaelen and Mertesacker form a good partnership. Mertesacker is underrated. Aris Muanguzi says, I think the reason for Arsenal's improvement is clearly the new assistant manager. The team looks completely changed from last season. The whole team defends as a team. Vivek Kirpalani says, Steve Bold, legend. Well, you're not far wrong there. He's got no hair and we don't care. But he, on the one hand, absolutely credit Steve Bold, Neil Banfield, but these players who do it. And there is a slight kind of, I always think there's a slight kind of reinvention of history. There was a caller earlier who said, we haven't defended like that since the days of George Graham and blah. You forget about Lauren, Campbell, Kolo Touré and Ashley Cole, who, for my money, give any back four in the history of this football club a run for their money. They were magnificent. Yes, obviously Steve Bold has done some great, but it's about the players. When it comes down to it, it's about the players, about them being as good as they need to be, and then being organised properly. Don't get me wrong, there's obviously work to be done, and it's clear that work's being done. But, I think the four that lined up for us yesterday deserve some credit for what they did. And for the, and that email about Mertesacker is absolutely a case in point. He's one of those. People have seen him come into the game. They come in because he's 6'5" and, not the quickest, and people go, they're not having him. Fellas, he's a quality, he got turned once by Suarez, got booked when Suarez did his little, good night Zebedee thing that he does. Put a hand on his shoulder and somehow both feet come off the ground. I don't know how that works. It's a weird thing. It's like he's got a button on his shoulder that makes his feet come off the ground. It's a strange sort of physical tick. Beyond that, he was absolutely immaculate. The tackle on Sterling, which was actually the best chance Liverpool created all game, was magnificent.
In fact, it was so good that when I saw it live, I thought penalty.
Yeah.
Because you kind of thought, there's no way he's getting that.
But he's got those Inspector Gadget legs.
Hey, come on, let's not talk about tall people like that. Someone who's taller than Mertesacker. No, I mean, he was fantastic. When you think of, I don't think it would have been feasible last season to think of an Arsenal back four to keep that kind of consistency and 3 consecutive clean sheets without Lauren Koscielny, because I thought he was fantastic at times last season, and now you think he's struggling to get back in the side.
Yeah,
that shows you the improvement they made.
No, absolutely. Boris is in Shoreditch. Is that Boris or Barris? Barris. Sorry, mate. I just wasn't sure on the pronunciation. Either way, you're very welcome.
Okay. Hello, guys. First of all, I'm listening to your show at the moment, and I'm compelled to say this, really. I think that Arsenal are going to do really well this season, mainly because we've got really good competition for places. It's not just, someone to cover an injury or when somebody's unfit for some reason or other. I just wanted to hear what your thoughts are on that, really.
Yeah, I've got to say, you look at the bench at Stoke and look at the bench yesterday. What I always think, Barish, is if you look at the substitutes bench and go, I wouldn't mind any of them starting the game. Then you're in good territory, and I think we have got ourselves to that place. I think there are still one or two positions. You've highlighted Arteta. I think, arguably Giru has already, just because of the shape of the team and what he brings to the team. All right, he hasn't scored yet, but you think we might struggle if we lost him. But
yeah, I agree. It's those two are the problem positions. You would be, as well as Manone's done, you would be concerned if Szczesny suddenly had a long-term injury.
Although Manone's third choice, let's remember, not second choice.
Yeah, absolutely right. But there are still question marks about Fabianski and Manone if they could. If you were going into a key run of games, would you have complete faith in them? I don't know whether every Arsenal fan would at this stage. So you would have concerns there. But it's like you could say that about any team. You say you take out your best goalkeeper, your holding midfielder, and your centre forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are going to struggle. It doesn't matter who you are.
No,
even City or United will struggle if you take those three out. So because it's the spine of your side.
Yeah.
But
we'll see what happens to City when Yaya Toure goes off to the African Cup of Nations, because they struggled last time.
Well, and Vincent Kompany, he was out for a few games, and Stefan Savic came in, and that was a disaster waiting to happen. But I think if you look at Arsenal across the side, particularly in wide areas going forward with Podolski and Walcott and Gervinho and Oxlade-Chamberlain and Arshavin, there's plenty of options out there. In the middle, when you get those players back, particularly those, I would worry about if Cazorla got injured. You'd say, well, Ramsey could go and play there, Riziki could go and play there. There are a few options, but Cazorla
could go and play there.
Absolutely right. I wish they would. I really wish they would.
It's funny, if you look at how Cazorla plays, I think it makes it, because of how Cazorla plays, it makes it more likely that Arsene Wenger might think about putting Arshavin in that position than if it was, if you think about the players who've played there previously, you've not thought to put Arshavin there is a very different. Arshavin, even physically, his body shape, the way he moves, the strengths of his game are very much Cazorla's strengths.
Exactly right. He's got that trickery. He's got that low centre of gravity. He's got that ability to dart and turn. So if you were taking Cazorla out of that side and you were looking around the Arsenal squad,
for like,
he's the one who comes in. But I'd be slightly concerned if he got injured, just because you'd think he's taken to the league so well. Okay, whether he's taken to the league, when the real kind of grind kicks in February, March time, whether he's still got the energy, still got the invention. We've seen that with all the creative players. You look at, David Silva got tired, Luka Modric, those kind of players. When you're asked every week, people talk about the physical side of it, but it always interests me when you talk about players, who you ask to go and unlock defences every 3 days. Well, that's difficult.
And you've got to rest them.
That tires you mentally.
Ideally, you want to rest them.
So, you'd say, well, you bring Cazorla out of that side, Ramsey could come in and do that. I think Ramsey got a bit of a raw deal towards the end of last season, because I thought, he played, that was his first full season after the broken leg. He played pretty much every week for his country as well, and he was tired by the end of that season. He's gone. So there are options there, but I do think Cazorla's a little bit better than anything else in there. But by and large, the striker and Arteta, the Arteta position, which we're now starting to call it, those two are the ones you think if those two get injured, you would start getting concerned, I think.
Yeah. Chris is in Milton Keynes. Thanks for the call, Barish. Chris, welcome to the home of football.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. You?
Good.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, great game yesterday. Yeah. I think the team set a standard yesterday, and I was quite impressed with the whole teamwork, because there have been times when you've watched the Arsenal team. I mean, we do end up winning, but you can tell that some people in the team that are not switched off or given 100%. But yesterday, it looked as if everyone was switched off, and I mean, if these are signs of what's to come, then good things are to come. We might end up winning something.
Yeah. I mean, I am a right old bloke like that. I do love the sight of hard work on a football field, and I think it's what you're talking about. That the level of commitment, the intensity, and the desire. You almost put the talent and the ability to one side for a minute. Let's take that as a given. But what enables that talent to thrive is the kind of commitment that you're absolutely right. I thought all over the pitch yesterday. You know, you said you didn't say we beat Liverpool, we dominated Liverpool because we're a better team than them, although, you know, player for player we are at the moment. But you said it's because we worked harder than they did.
Yeah. You know, we've said before that there have been times in the past when Arsenal have faltered when they've turned up to places like Anfield or you know, difficult away games, and they've kind of thought, well, we've got the talent, we've got the arrogance, we've got the confidence to go and win this game. You look around the dressing room, look at the players we've got, and then you think, well, actually, if you don't ally that with the work rate, you're not going to get anything. No. Particularly in the Premier League, when you think about the pace of it, the intensity of it. This is a very unforgiving division, you know, and a lot of the foreign players perhaps don't realise that when they come over. And people talk about the, you know, acclimatising to the English League. It is about that. It's about, you know, it doesn't matter where you go. You're, you know, Wednesday night away, wherever, under the lights, they get in your faces. It doesn't matter where it is, anywhere in the league. You know, and you look at the newly promoted sides last season who came up, Swansea, Norwich, you will get it down and they'll play it. They've got ability. Southampton have shown, okay, they lost to City, they lost to United, but they've got talent. They can get it down, they can play it, and they don't fear teams. And there has been a trend over the last few years of one or two, or even sometimes all of them, the newly promoted sides, staying up, and they see that and they think, well, this isn't as big a gulf as maybe we always thought it was. And it's those kind of games that, you know, perhaps you don't get that maybe in the foreign leagues quite so much, with Barcelona and Real Madrid, perhaps in Spain, for example, dominating, and teams go to the Bernabeu and think, well, forget this, you know, there's no point even bothering here. You know, you don't get that so much in the Premier League. It happens every now and again, of course it does, but by and large, it's that level of intensity, and somebody like Lucas Podolski, who we touched on earlier, he gets it. He understands it, and I think he actually thrives on it. I think he really likes it. He understands you have to put a shift in so your talent can thrive.
Chris, thanks for the call. Ray's in Dublin. Ray, welcome to the home of football.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Good to have you with us, mate. What you got?
Yeah, I just want to talk to you about the centre-back pair and what you think should be our, you know, first back two, you know, because Vermaelen, obviously being the captain, is going to be always first pick, as he is, in my opinion, the best central defender. But Mertesacker in the last 3 games has really, really stepped up. I don't know what the lads have been doing on the training pitch, but he's really, really shown me that he's fighting Koscielny for that second place. And Koscielny obviously isn't a given to get into the pairing at the back two. And I just want to know what you guys think about it.
Yeah, it's a good one, in that you could argue, certainly last season, Koscielny was our best defender. And at the moment, we're playing. I think with Mertesacker, he has been good the last couple of games. I thought he was excellent last season until he got injured as well. I really did think that he and Arteta between them were responsible for kind of, obviously the other fellow was scoring the goals up front, but the two of them were responsible for kind of getting a grip on Arsenal's season. And Mertesacker has got all sorts of qualities. The number one is his temperament. Is absolutely fantastic, and just the kind of, you know, particularly with sort of young players, you know, you think about the Carl Jenkinsons and Kieran Gibbs of this world. You know, Mertesacker he's been there, done it. He's got a lot of composure. Yeah, absolutely, and a real kind of sense of calm. And look, no rush here. But on the other hand, when it comes time to get rid, he'll get rid. You know, he's. I
mean, I personally, for me, if I was picking a back four for any game, I would probably have Koscielny and Vermaelen as my centre halves. But that's not to say that I mean, I was very sceptical of Mertesacker when he came into the league, but I think he's adapted well. I think he's, like you say, regardless of whatever, you know, mistakes he's made or whatever his form is, he has this tremendous composure, this tremendous self-belief.
And game understanding. You know, if you think Suarez managed to get away from him once yesterday.
He reads the game very. I mean, he kind of has to, because he doesn't have the pace. But he does do that. He has got that capability. I think what you can say though is that Koscielny and Vermaelen may not be always the best centre back pairing, depending on who you're playing against. If you were playing against, you know, balls into the box, aerial threat, you know, those kind of sides. I mean, we saw Southampton, you know, against the next opponents. We saw them against United score 2-headed goals. You might look at that and say, okay, we might need a bit of height, we might need a bit more presence physically. So we might throw Mertesacker in. It's a good problem to have, and you could say,
well, while they're keeping clean sheets, he's not going to take Mertesacker.
You wouldn't have thought so. You wouldn't have thought so. But you know, you're talking about 2 or 3 games with Mertesacker this season, whereas Koscielny last season, I thought by and large was pretty good for all of it.
Oh yeah,
and it'd be pretty hard on him to then say, okay, mate, sorry, you're going to have to sit this one out. But as I say, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah. No,
let's be honest, it's Arsenal. One of them's going to get injured.
Well, the thing is, we've now got 2-week international break. The chances of all 3 of them coming back fit are infinitesimal. Actually, Mertesacker's not really getting a game, is he? Didn't get a game. He was with the squad, but didn't get a game in Poland and Ukraine. So he might be the one that stays fit, and he's proved he can play with either of them. He was, obviously played with Koscielny for...
I think they're pretty interchangeable as a 3. I think Vermaelen's shown that he can do that too.
No, absolutely. Thanks very much indeed for the call. Let's 0207 607 3200. Let me remind you, we've still got time to get you on air to the Arsenal speaking world. 0207 607 3200 gets you through to the fans forum. To James Ollie from the Standard. Let's have some of your tweets. You can tweet us any time. We are at Arsenal, and the hashtag is fansforum. Hot moves, loving that. Says Giru will be class when he starts firing. Look at his movement. Patience. At Alex49, give the guy some time. I'd rather he start slower and become excellent than start fast and fade out. At Mr. Cafo Defo 18, he's obviously low on confidence. He will need more than 10 games to settle in and enjoy himself. At Beth Abbott says, I reckon Giroud will be fine in the Southampton match, just like Bergkamp and Henry. I think Van Persie scored his first ever Arsenal goal against Southampton as well. Read somewhere that Ian Wright did, but of course he didn't. He went up to Leicester knowing he'd score as soon as he got an Arsenal shirt on, which he duly did. Southampton have got a habit of breaking people's down. And, the fella started 2 games. Bergkamp, Henry, we're talking greats here. And they took, 8 and 9 games respectively?
Well, he's not as a player, and certainly as an Arsenal player, he's not going to be judged on 2 games, is he? I mean, the good thing is he's getting in the positions. Okay, he missed a sitter against Sunderland, he missed a sitter against Liverpool, but he's getting himself in those positions. I hate that cliche about he'll score 1 and then he'll go on a run, but it is true. Once you do break that duck, you do have that confidence. You see it in players that they don't even have to think about it. They know they're going to hit the net.
Yeah. 0207 607 3200 gets you through. Ashley in Teddington has called that number. Ashley, very pleased to have you with us. Welcome to the home of football.
Hi there. I'd like to speak about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yes.
And whether you think he should be starting every week, and whether we should let Walcott go just to show he's the number 1 and that Wenger has faith in him.
Yes and no. What do you think, James?
I think that he's... Again, we were talking earlier about Wilshere and coming back from injury. With Oxlade-Chamberlain, it's the same kind of argument insofar as, let's allow him to develop. I spoke to, I remember before Euro 2012, I spoke to a coach that had worked with Oxlade-Chamberlain at Southampton, and he was adamant that he shouldn't have gone to Euro 2012 because it's important that players learn and develop. And when you look at what happened with Theo, and I do think that was a sort of negative factor in the development of his career, that he went, as a 16-year-old in 2006 to the World Cup in Germany. You say, well, do we need Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to be playing every week? Is he going to make the difference? Yes, he might, but really, you've got enough as it is as a first choice 11 to just pick and choose when you use him, bring him in slowly, develop him, and then say in 2 or 3 years' time, play him enough. Look, if he's in form, play him by all means. But I think Podolski on the left, Giroud up front is pretty set in stone. That kind of right-hand side position is up for grabs with Walcott. Jorginho obviously can play there. The Ox has played on the left, I know, quite a few times more often than not, I think, for Arsenal. But he can also play in the middle, remember that as well. He's got
all pre-season he played alongside Arteta.
Yeah, and that's something that Arsene Wenger's talked about, that his kind of, the players sort of camp have talked about, that in the long term, they see him as a central midfielder. So let's give him some time to develop. If things are going wrong, and you need to throw him on, and he scores a goal and he's playing well, continue playing him in the team. But I don't think they need to force him into the team.
No, absolutely. What about the other? I mean, the thing as well about him playing further forward is, of course, the one quality he shares with Cazorla, which is priceless, particularly playing in that position, is he can go either way. He's genuinely two-footed in that way. What about the other bit about, sell Theo if you... personally, I want Theo Walcott at this football club. I think I think he's developed year on year, and I think there's still distance to go.
We're going to have an argument now. It's the argument that we always have, which is that I think his best position will be as a centre forward, and I would like to see him not in this system, but I would like to see him stay at Arsenal and play as a centre forward. And
just playing 4-4-2, so is his central two.
Well, you could. Then, when you play two in a 4-4-2, you've suddenly got. I think you've got a wealth of options there. I mean, who's your two in a 4-4-2 if everyone's fit? Wilshere and Arteta probably. But I would play Walcott on the shoulder of the last defender, and all you need to do with him. People talk about his football brain and he's the closer he gets to the touchline, the worse a player he is for me. Simplify the game for him. Say to him, right, you play on the shoulder of the last defender, this is the kind of service you're going to get. Ball into feet, ball over the top, all you've got to do is finish. And remember, the one point we agree on last season, second best finisher at the football club behind Van Persie, Theo Walcott.
No, absolutely right, but there's another one now, and I think it'd be good. I really hope Theo shines, sooner rather than later. I really want him part of this football club. I like him as a lad. But I think him and one or two. For all the people who say he should play as a striker, including the player himself, watching Podolski for a season should be an education, because Podolski will score a goal every 2 games. He's done it for Germany. He's done it for Cologne. He may not score a goal every 2 games this particular season. You can score 15 or 20 goals for Arsenal playing in the position that Theo's being asked to play in at the moment. Theo is not yet at a point, you could say that there have been players in the recent past, particularly, I'm thinking of Fabregas, I'm thinking of Van Persie, where the whole team was structured towards getting the best out of them. With the best will in the world, and I'm a huge Theo Walcott fan, I think he brings a lot to the football club. He is not a player that I want to build an Arsenal team around. He's a player who I want to fit in to this Arsenal team, because I think he has something. And if he's going to play in this Arsenal team, he has to play wide on the right, and he's got to look at Podolski, look at the runs Podolski makes, and look at the work going the other direction Podolski makes.
Let me clarify something. I'm not saying that they should just scrap what they're doing, change the whole system, play 4-4-2 every week. One of Arsenal's major deficiencies, particularly in the last 5 or 6 years, has been the lack of a plan B. They don't have another system to go to play. All that happens is when they're here and they're not winning games, they overload the fullbacks, just throw another striker on and play exactly the same way. Yeah. What I'd like to see is just try it. I'm not even saying it will definitively work. I just like to see that system with Theo up top, because it gives you a totally different shape, gives you a totally different set of weapons and a set of threats that a team would have to think about. And I just think for the player himself, and he gave an interview to The Standard in March where he was talking about people forget I'm a striker. He kept throwing this in over and over again, and he was telling me that when Van Persie wouldn't train and they did team shape work, he was the one that played the centre forward, and he absolutely loved it. This is where I want to be, and I also believe that is part of the sticking point of why he hasn't signed a new deal. Is I think there has been a suggestion that he would like an assurance that he's going to make the same move as his idol. Remember Thierry Henry, who obviously started as a winger, came in as a centre forward in the end. And that's the move he wants to make, that's the move he can make, and I'd just like to see it.
No, and don't get me wrong, it may be that in 2, 3, 4 years' time, for all that Thierry was young, let's remember Thierry had already won a World Cup playing as a winger. Do you know what I mean? That was how far advanced his career already was before Arsene Wenger said, come here and you know, you can play down the middle.
Yeah, and at club level, I mean, he was not really getting a kick for Juventus. I mean, he made that move, and he wasn't playing regularly. He was out of favour there. You know, when he came to Arsenal, he was on a bit of a low ebb in a club sense, and certainly in his confidence as a player. Yes, you're right. Of course, he won a World Cup, but you know, I do think there are similarities there in terms of trying to find their best position.
Well, they found it with Thierry, all right. And I'm sure we'll find it with Theo, as long as he signs on the dotted line. Let's talk to Andy in Cheshunt. Andy, welcome to the home of football.
How you doing, Tom? You all right?
Yeah, not bad.
What a great Sunday it was.
Yeah, I do love a 2-0 at Anfield. Yeah, I do love a 2-0 at Anfield. Brings back all the best sort of memories, doesn't it?
It certainly does, yes, mate. It certainly does. Well, I just have to say, I'm absolutely over the moon that Steve Bold is helping out Arsenal. I really do believe, as much as you're right, it's down to the players, but I do believe that organisational side of it, Steve Bold has instilled into the players, and it's no coincidence that somebody that was part of such a wonderful back five.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Has to have an influence. And these guys, I'm sure the whole team, right through from the front to the back, must be looking at him thinking, you know, it would be wonderful to have Tony Adams in the backroom staff. It would be wonderful to have Dennis Bergkamp there. It would be wonderful to have Ian Wright there. It would be wonderful to have, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Overmars, or because that's what I know. I was reading what Stan Collymore was talking about going over to Ajax, and a lot of the greats, the Ajax greats players are there coaching the new
absolutely.
The new players, and I really believe Arsenal have so many inspirational legends that's the way we should go as well, to inspire the new generation.
Yeah.
And just one more thing, I'll
tell you what, Andy, I've got.
Court is great.
Yeah, just one. I've just got to say before we get that, I've got to draw the line at righty, because I would give him 2 weeks on the training pitch and he'd be going, I can still do this, you know. Gaffer, give me a game, give me a game. Do you know? He'd be scoring more goals than anybody else on the training ground and going, I can still do this. Sorry, what was your other quick point there, mate? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's okay. I mean, I'm just, I'm so pleased with the way everything's going. I think Cazorla is like, I don't know, he's so smooth with the ball. Yeah. Left and right foot is just incredible, and it's what we've needed. I think Diaby is the key, though. I think if he can stay fit, okay, I honestly believe that Arsenal could go on to win the league. I really do. I think he will. The way he was driving us forward was just frightening, and I know. It's been frustrating with the injuries, and it all stems from that challenge. I think it was at Sunderland, wasn't it? Was it Sunderland? I think it was.
Yeah.
And but I honestly believe if we can keep that boy fit, okay, along with Arteta, and when Wilshere comes back, and then we can probably give Cazorla a bit of a rest. Wilshere can come back and turn it on, and I honestly believe that we could go on to win the league, right? Have a parade at the at Islington, and I can get drunk.
One way or another, I've got a feeling I know how this season is going to end. It's great to hear that optimism, and that's borne by one good afternoon at Anfield against a fairly ordinary Liverpool. It has to be said. I mean, we all need a kind of, but it's hard not to get excited about what we saw yesterday.
Arsene Wenger talked about potential all the time, particularly in the years of the trophy drought years, if you like. But yesterday we saw it.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to excite people.
No, absolutely. And I think if the last hour and a half is anything to go by, we are excited. Thanks very much indeed for the call. Because I wasn't able to go to Anfield yesterday, so, watched the football increasingly with the sound turned down. Actually, I just can't take the difference between what I'm watching and what the game that people are describing. I can't. But there was a fantastic moment when Wenger was in. Oh, maybe it was later on last night. Fantastic moment where Wenger was asked about Cazorla, and he just the smile.
Yeah.
It was just like it was. Before he said anything, it was like, this is everything I want from a footballer. You know, I don't think you can quite believe he's nicked him for 15 million quid. He just obviously, watching the guy play in an Arsenal shirt and train every day just makes Wenger happy.
Well, I think you speak to people who know La Liga better than me, and they say that this is the best player outside of the top two by a country mile. You know, and you got him for a snip, absolute snip.
Anthony is in Canning Town. Anthony, welcome to the home of football.
Yeah, hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Just to say yesterday's game was really a wonderful match. I was really happy. But what has really impressed me for this season so far has been the back four. I don't know how they've done it, but they've really done a good job. And there's one thing I believe we don't really give Arsene Wenger the credit he deserves. The man has really done a lot. Yeah, he has really done a lot. I'm not saying he's done good, because I wouldn't want to see my best player go to my rival, and that's a problem. That's an issue I believe that they need to address.
Yeah.
Selling our best players every season is getting out of hand. How can you sell Van Persie to Manchester United?
Yeah.
And to believe that we want to win a trophy, we want to go for the Premiership, the Champions League, we need somebody like Van Persie in the team. So I don't know what's really happening. We don't really know what's happening. As fans, most of us don't really know what's happening.
Yeah.
If I had my way, I wouldn't come. I would just get my season ticket, right? But I wouldn't want to come for any match, because it's just getting ridiculous every season. We're losing our best players, selling them out.
Yeah, Anthony, thanks for that. That is for all that we're kind of happy and excited, and you know, what we've done is we've kind of taken those 2 steps back and we're starting it again, and we're excited about how it's looking like it might go. But then you see the fella doing what he did yesterday, and you think, kind of makes you feel sick to your stomach, really.
Yeah, it does. It looks strange, doesn't it?
Well, it looks all wrong. You know, there is something fundamentally wrong about it.
But you know, we're talking about a player that I'm sure we could do another show entirely about Robin van Persie and why he was sold. But you know, the fact is, he wasn't going to sign a new deal. They decided to take the money. If they had the option, and I know that they were trying to sell him to Juventus for quite a long period of time, Juventus essentially didn't come up with the money, and as it turned out, the player ultimately didn't want to go there. You know, what do? You know, this at the end of the day, Arsenal is run as a business. It's run as you know, a club that are going to take the money in that situation and say, well, look, £24 million represents a good deal for us. You know, if Van Persie goes and scores 30 goals again, it will represent a good deal for Man United. Of course it will. And you don't want to be selling the best players to your rivals. But the fact of the matter is, the situation became untenable for Van Persie to stay here. So they had to sell him. And in the end, there was only one club they could sell him to. So we need to just, you know, the club needs to move on. They have moved on. You've got, you know, look, if we were sitting here and Giru had scored 3 goals in his first 3 games, I don't think we'd probably be talking about Robin van Persie, even after yesterday. Fact is, you get a goal scorer who's going to start scoring goals, and if he can start doing that in the next couple of months, and Arsenal winning games, it won't be, Van Persie won't suddenly be the difference. Yeah, it'll be another player.
I think the difference between, well, I asked you the difference between what and what, and I've got a feeling that the difference between what and what, whatever they are, is that, you know, what we're doing at the start of every season, and, you know, Arsene Wenger deserves unbelievable credit for his ability to kind of, to choose and to, you know, and to come at what apparently at the last minute, you know, it was, panic buys, Mertesacker, Arteta. 2 have been absolutely sensational buys for Arsenal. But if instead of filling the gaps that you've lost, you were adding, then that might be the difference between what and what. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, that what and what business I've kind of got stuck in my head. But let's have a winner for the 2011-2012. Plenty of Robin van Persie goals here, in case you'd forgotten. And it's been won by Ian Fletcher in Cheshunt, who knew that the answer to, the quiz tonight was, the competition tonight was that in 2007, Santi Cazorla was Spanish Player of the Year. He was playing for Recreativo Huelva at the time. I know. It's very interesting what actually James saying that, you know, people who watch Spanish football say Cazorla is the best player outside the top two. And he's played for quite a few clubs in Spain, but has never played for the top two. You know, Villarreal, for Malaga, obviously, for Recreativo Huelva. And that is saying something. If you've got two clubs the size of Madrid and Barcelona, and a fellow who's playing at Recreativo Huelva wins Player of the Year, I think he's got something about him, as Liverpool found out yesterday. James, great to have you with us, mate.
Cheers.
Really, well, you knew it was going to be a bit of fun, because it was fun at Anfield, barring the getting there and the getting back. But thanks for joining us this evening. Thanks to you for your tweets, for your Facebook messages, for the calls and emails. I tell you what, we haven't got a game next weekend, but let's meet up on Monday night and have a chat about the Arsenal anyway. Fortunately, none of our players will have been cropped by next Monday, and we will have a game against Southampton in the Premier League to look forward to. Haven't even touched on our draw for the Champions League yet, but that will be just days away come next Monday. So hopefully you can join us then, back 7:30, exclusively on Arsenal Player. In the meantime, not bad yesterday. There's work to be done though, eh? Come on, the Arsenal!